Hey, everybody. Welcome, everyone. It is Friday night, August the 21st. We're so glad that you guys can join us um, this evening for a special broadcast panel discussion. We're going to talk about COVID-19, talk to some people who had it, some medical stuff, some individuals who had family members that had it or have it. We want you guys to tune into the broadcast. It's going to be really cool. Submit your questions as always. And of course, please share as much as you can. Um, share. We would love for you guys to get others to join us in this, I believe, an important conversation. Um, kind of bring some understanding, some truth to it. Of course, before we really get started, y'all know Bishop Evans, of course. You know,
Hello.
Hey, Bishop.
Good evening,
Right.
Bishop.
Nice
to meet you. Nice to meet you all.
It's a pleasure. Hi.
Yes, sir.
All right. And then we'll work our way down to Dr. Niles, and we'll go down to Pastor Christmas and to Desiree. You guys can introduce yourselves. Dr. Niles?
Oh, hello.
Yep.
I'm Dr. Deborah Niles. I'm a board certified family physician. I practice in the Philadelphia area. You can reach me at all of my handles on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Dr. Deborah Niles, DrDeborahNiles. Good evening.
Good. Pastor Christmas?
All right, James Christmas, True Vine Worship Center in North Philadelphia. Grateful to be here. You can reach me at truevinephilly.com. That'll do it for me.
Wow.
See, I didn't know we were doing plugs. I was like,
Well, you can if you want to. It's up to you. You know, everything's for the gram now, right, Des?
right. I was like, wait, we plugging? Okay.
Great.
Hi, everybody. I'm Desiree. I'm excited to be a part of the panel today and to learn about, well, not learn, but like discuss about what's been going on and discuss what's been going on in my family and different people's families and just around the world right now. I am a yoga instructor and a health advocate. And I guess since we're plugging, you can find me at Coco Hughes Wellness on Instagram. That's CocoAHues Wellness. And I'm going to be offering some yoga classes. So, yeah. Hi.
Cool. So you guys come on again. Please share as much as possible. Get your questions and your comments ready. And Bishop, I'll throw it to you and see where you want to roll with this. I was talking to somebody who had COVID Wednesday or Thursday, one of them days, and the person's going to be on. We do it again later, and was talking about how the psychological effects of anxiety and all those things, because this person had the worst part of it. And while the person was telling me, I was still confused about how people still see this as just another flu, as just another, hoax, or it's nothing that's not that bad. What are your thoughts surrounding that? Because to me, it's a lack of empathy somewhat, because it hasn't hit you yet, but you're denying everybody's experience.
I think there's from a spiritual point of view, the only biblical principle that I can see that makes sense in this time, that there is a distinct lack of love, because Jesus says that all the commandments boil down to two things: love God and love people.
Yeah.
And I think the haphazardness with which we are approaching and taking chances with other people's lives purely shows that we can't possibly love God the way we should, and we certainly don't love people when we would absolutely expose them to this thing. And then some people are under the misconception that the size of the group means you're protected. Some people think if you're outside, you're going to be okay. Some people think because they have no symptoms, they're not a danger to anybody else. And America right now seems to be seems to be exhibiting an incredible degree of selfishness, where even if they don't feel bad, I would wear a mask for someone else.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
It's just, and I think there's, just so everybody can get launched off, there is definitely a physical and a spiritual aspect to COVID-19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Can Pastor Christmas, you want to chime in on that part?
Yes, I found that my experience, that while I did not have it as deeply or greatly as others, I did not need the respirator. But I did find that for me, for about 3 days of my adventure out of the 7, I was just in a dark place. There was nothing that I could really relate to except the base memory that I belong to God.
Wow.
But outside of that, I had no spiritual ambition or no desire for anything except to get out of the darkness. I don't want
So
to
I
go back
remember
there.
when I talked to you, Christmas, you told me you were in a dark spiritual place. And when I talked to other
Yes.
pastors who had COVID, and I told them what you said, those words articulated what they couldn't find words for, that they were in a dark spiritual place. I think
Yeah.
Christmas froze.
He froze. Yeah. but you're right, Bishop. And I think hey Deacon Mike
Hey,
Love.
hey, sir.
How you doing?
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good,
Yeah.
man.
But Bishop, you're right. I think Deacon Lowe can even address that too. Deacon, we're talking about the dark place that COVID could take somebody. And I remember you talking to us about that.
Yeah. Wow. A dark place. Um, to make it real short, when I had the shortness of breath was on a Saturday night, about 5 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't breathe, and I struggled to wake my wife up. So I sat in the chair, Bishop, and I went and got a fan. Put a fan to my face. That was not working. I went and got some Vicks. Put it on my nose. Put it on my chest. Still was having problems breathing. This is the crazy part. I start doing push-ups. Anything to try to open anything to try to open me up. So anything to try to open me up. So I'm down there doing some push-ups. I got up, try to do a little bit of exercise, breathing and things like that.
Mhm.
But what happened to me was I sat in the chair. I was trying to wake my wife up. She was in a coma. I said, I'm gonna sit in this chair. I sat in this recliner chair. I never forget it. And Bishop, I began to write in my book. So the dark place was I was writing down. I knew I was going to go. So I was writing down every password,
Oh, wow.
every password that I had, insurance,
Wow.
my PIN number, through my bank account, everything. I
Wow.
was writing down in a book. Then I remember me just leaning back in my recliner chair. I don't remember nothing else. Then I heard some birds chirping. It was the next morning. I
Wow.
looked out, the sun was shining, and I could breathe again. But something about that dark place between that 5 and 6 had me out of here. Once I got better, I'm gonna tell you what I did. I ripped up the whole piece of paper. You know, but, but the dark place was taking me right there, and like you said, and that was the worst time. I mean, I felt like George Floyd trying to
Okay.
get air, trying to breathe, and I'm just huffing for air, and shoot, I just remember me going back in the chair, and here I am today. I'm still here.
Yeah.
So I was reading something I think it was this week, I believe, Dr. Niles, where it was talking about how COVID, it really is about the person's immune system more than anything. And it was saying that there were people who fight it better than others because they were exposed to COVID some time before, and they have the antibodies or the immunity to be able to fight it off better. I'm not sure. Are you aware of, I mean, how far can you go into that on a medical level as it relates to our immunity in the virus?
So what we know is that there are different types of coronavirus, and we don't know. We know that once you get the COVID-19, this current type of coronavirus, we don't really know how long the antibodies are lasting. We're not going to know probably for another year or two. After they go through testing, multiple testing, all over the world, just to see how long the immunity is lasting. They're projecting it's about 4 or 5 months, since the coronavirus is very similar to influenza, the flu virus. Very, very similar. The coronavirus is actually a little bit larger in structure, but very, very similar. And we know that the immunity probably is not going to be lifelong immunity. People, we're thinking it's going to be like the flu, how you can get the flu more than one time.
Wow. That's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. I saw a report, Dr. Niles. I've been paying close attention to this because of the congregation and needing to know, how to talk to people with this thing. And they say they believe they're falling in at about 90 days. And you need to be careful. Even if you've had it, you need to be careful not exposing yourself to people that do and take the same precautions, because that immunity, we think immunity lasts, but they say 90 days or so, it's gone.
Yes. Wow. And we don't really know. And I'll give you an example. Certain types of vaccines, for instance, we used to recommend renewing every 10 years. And then we realized, like yellow fever, that's one of them. And we realized that after a certain period of time, people still had immunity. So they changed the recommendation. And that's what we're going to have to find out with this particular, because the vaccine's not out yet. They're still in phase 3 trials. And, we're looking at the end of the year, maybe early next year, before we see a vaccine.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember from a immunity body standpoint, when Deke talked about doing push-ups and stuff, I remember he told me that, and it made me think of the Cuomo that works at CNN. He said that his doctor told him, whatever you do not stay immobile. Get up, walk around, even if you're out of breath, stretch your chest out, do all that stuff to keep your chest open. Because they were linking that immobility with with it being worse. Have you seen or read about anything about that?
Not that in particular, I know, but what we do know about this particular virus is it can go anywhere in the body, and the healthier you are, the less chance you're going to get very sick from it. We know that it can affect your eyes, it can affect your toes. We call it COVID toes, where your toes turn sort of a bluish black color. We know it can affect your lungs. Most people get respiratory symptoms. They get a cough, they get shortness of breath. Some people get a fever, some don't. So the healthier you are, probably the better off you're going to be. People who have diabetes, heart disease, heart failure, any chronic condition like that, kidney disease, they're much, much more likely to get ill if they contract this virus.
Okay.
So I did have the pink eye.
You got pink eye from it?
Yes, sir. I got the pink eye from it. A lot of coughing, pink eye. Then I lost my taste. I couldn't taste my food. Yeah, so it really got me, But the exercise came in, I guess, because my daughter is a RN, and she was telling me to do different breathing exercises and stuff like that, which I was doing. Everything that they told me to do, I was doing it. And one thing I could not do was lay down. If I lay down in the bed flat, I felt like I was just going underwater. So I stood up in my recliner chair the whole time. Hardly never went to sleep. If I did go to sleep, it's like for an hour, back up again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. One lady in England, they thought she had a stroke. They found a COVID in her brain. She had all the stroke symptoms and couldn't talk. Body went limp, and they had to clear all that stuff out. So you're right. It is concerning for many because it's a variety of manifestations of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of medical people are nervous about flu season because they know if they're getting the calls now, who knows what it's going to be like during flu season.
It's gonna be worse.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's gonna be worse. I might as well be honest.
Yeah.
Mm.
So Desiree, some people in your family had the virus, correct?
Yeah. My
Okay.
dad had it. He had it so bad that I thought we were actually going to lose him.
Wow.
Like, it was really like, and it's the weakest I've ever heard my dad. And I obviously wanted to go see him, but he refused and like kept yelling at me, like, do not bring yourself over here. But it was definitely like, no, I wanted to do everything I could. But, and especially like at the time, everyone was still very much quarantined. So it was like, God forbid he did pass away, like, you're gonna die by yourself, like, it was really hard for all of us. And he said the one thing that kept him going, like you said earlier, like being in a dark place, he was in a very dark place. He said the one thing that kept him going was thinking of my little brother, and my little brother's 7. And at first I was like, you didn't think about me, but that's all right.
That's a daughter phrase. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
But he said he was thinking about my little brother, and how he needed to be strong and be here for him and help, to raise him. And so, but yeah, he was very, very weak, and he experienced he couldn't breathe at all. So he had the respiratory situations happen. And he felt like he had, like you said, he felt like you were drowning. He said he had the same thing. Like, he felt like it was like very heavy on the chest and different things like that. And then two of my other family members passed away from it, and they already had preconditions. Like, one, it's crazy because my aunt, she was already in like a nursing home situation, and she was already kind of sick. But then when she got COVID, it just completely took her illness, like, 10 times. Like, my cousin, her son mentioned how he thought he had more time. Like, yes, she was sick, but he thought that he had more time for her to heal, and even within her sickness, like, to take care of her long term. And then my uncle, he had actually had a double lung transplant last year, and he was supposed to come home the day we found out he had COVID. Like, he was supposed to. He had just recovered, was just getting released and everything, and they found out he had COVID, so he had to stay. And then within a week, he was gone.
Wow.
And that one kind of like rocked the whole family, because it was just like, wait, you went through, how do you? And it was like a faith challenge situation for a lot of us, because it was the conversation with God of like, okay, you brought him through this entire surgery. You got him through, like, because double lung transplant in and of itself is already a very, it's a very like sketchy surgery. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people don't really make it and things like that. So you made it all the way to recovery just to take him at the end. So where everybody's good now. Like, his wife is. Everybody's more encouraged. Everybody's spirits are higher. And I think that's because at his homecoming celebration, it was legit a celebration. Like, obviously there were tears and everything, but it was one of the best funerals I've ever participated in and been in, because it was like, he's not here. We think he's supposed to be here, but it was really like, we are going to celebrate his life. And my uncle was such a good guy. So it was like, we just loved on each other in such a great way. And it was just upsetting to see how this like rocked so many families, but it brought my family so much closer. So, yeah.
That brings up something, Bishop. I remember when it got real bad at the end of March, all through April, and all the phone calls that were coming. And we got statements like what Desiree was saying and what Sid was saying, not being able to mourn together and having that closure.
Yeah.
And you've ministered to a lot of families about this. What are some of the things you shared with the families of how to deal with this situation when it's
One of the things I had to get across to just about every family that lost someone to COVID was that this thing was like the weather, in that we had no control over it at all. Yeah. That we had to pray for people's strength, pray for God to deliver them. But at that point, we understood that was the vehicle by which God was taking them to another place. So I started talking to them about the fact that it was not selfish for them to want them here whole and healthy, but that God had made another decision, and not to compare those that made it to those that didn't. It brought, and usually in some cases there was underlying conditions, but in some cases they were young people, 30s, 40s, that were perfectly fine. And it just hit them in a way that, I told you about a pastor out in Indiana. He told me that he asked God to take him, that he was that sick. He asked the Lord to take, he said, just take me, Lord. And he said if his wife hadn't grabbed him by the feet and started praying, and he said she went in like he didn't know she could, but he ended up with liver, kidney, heart, and lung damage from COVID. So now, and this is what's really different about COVID to me, I've never seen a flu where you needed rehab after you got better.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Christmas, did you have any after effects that you had to kind of overcome?
Well, I think one of the problems I'm suffering with, I'm still under medical attention because I have this atrial fibrillation that I had from my cabbage that I had in 2007. But I've always had the shortness of breath. But one of the things that was necessary for me was that I had lost a sense of balance. I was holding on to the wall and just feeling my way from the bathroom back to the bedroom. And I was so miserable. I had to get my wife to take me to one of those, what they call emergency places. And urgent care. Yeah. And it was there that they said, you are so despondent. We're going to send you to the hospital.
Okay.
So they sent me from there to the hospital. And well, of course, I didn't want to stay, but the doctor talked my wife into talking me into staying, like I really knew what was going on. But I was grateful that I did stay. One of the things that happened to me is that I started losing a lot of skin around the edge of my scalp here, and it's just now getting its color back.
Wow.
But I mean, there was flakes of skin that I guess maybe it was part of the COVID as well as some of the medication. But then my wife also was home quarantined because she had it, and she was losing hair.
Wow.
And she's still working at that.
I saw an interview, Dr. Niles. I saw an interview where they went to the lab in China, and they asked. I don't really think the man that was the manager of the lab knew what he was saying. They asked him, "Did the virus escape from the lab?" And the man said, "I can guarantee you, it didn't escape." So then I said to myself, "Do you realize you just admitted?" that it was in the lab.
That's right.
And it made me wonder, is the potency of this thing connected to some genetic engineering? Were they fooling around with it?
Possibly.
Because it's devastating.
Yeah.
Possibly. We're still learning about this. I talked to someone this week who's doing research on this particular coronavirus. And, he was telling me a little bit about the structure. He said it's an RNA virus, which is a type of protein, very similar to the flu. So it's going to behave like the flu. It's a larger particle. And what we know about this particular particle is, for some reason, when it gets in some individuals, it wreaks havoc. It gets in the bloodstream. It can travel to the brain. It can travel to your eyes. It can travel to your kidneys. It can travel to your toes. I mean, because and the flu doesn't really behave like that. So we're still learning about this virus. Because initially, back in March, when the virus was started to attack people, mostly what we saw was respiratory symptoms, if you don't remember. And then maybe a few weeks or maybe a month or two later, people started complaining about not being able to taste, losing their sense of taste. And then later on, maybe sometime in the summer, I remember I saw a patient and her toes, she was young. She was like 29, 25 years old. No comorbidities, no pre-existing conditions, totally healthy, did blood work on her. And just around that time, it came out in the literature that we're seeing this COVID virus affecting the toes. And it gives you this purplish color that you usually see in older people who have heart disease, when they start having vascular problems and they start developing disease in their toes. And it looked exactly like that. And I'm thinking, wow, she's only in her 20s. Why do her toes look so bad? And the dermatologist actually started seeing it before us, like the primary care physicians. And they started describing that. And that came out later. That wasn't something we noticed early on. So as time moves on, we're going to learn more and more about this virus.
We do have a few questions. We can bring some up and then go back to the conversation since we're on the medical part. Sid wanted to talk about the natural immunity. So I know they're doing those tests to see who are people asymptomatic, who has natural immunity to it. I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, correct? With the antibodies test and all that.
Yeah. So we don't think right now, because it's still early, the antibody tests we have are the best tests. Remember, people just started coming out with these tests, and tests usually get better with time. There are lots of things you have to look for in a test, and we don't think right now we have the best test. So people constantly call, they want this antibody test, and if they want it, we'll order it. But we really don't, because the CDC doesn't know. We don't know. We're still learning about this virus, this coronavirus. And it's really difficult to say, how reliable it's going to be.
So if what Bishop is saying is right, is this a biochemical warfare, as they're saying? Because that's what it sounds like, if it didn't slip out.
Well, it's possible. When you think about a virus is a particle. It's in the air. It's innate. It gets in your body. It's an RNA virus. So in order to replicate and make more of itself, it uses your DNA. It uses your genome, your material. It gets in your body and takes over your machinery and makes more of itself. In a healthy individual, we know that their body and their immune system is able to make antibodies towards this virus and fight this virus off, basically keep it in check, keep it from attacking the rest of the body. People who have diabetes and all these other conditions I mentioned earlier, they're much more likely because their body doesn't function normally. They don't have like a fully functioning immune system. Diabetes causes, if you can look at it as an inflammatory state in your body, and imagine having all this inflammation, so is heart disease, and you have a virus entering your body and there's no protection, or very little protection, I should say.
Yeah.
So your body can't mount an immune response. Like older people who are in a nursing home, they have weaker immune systems. So if this virus gets into their body, they're not able to make antibodies, which is a protein, it's a type of protein, to try and fight this virus off. Okay. And if this virus gets in your immune system and in your body and starts making more of itself, replicating 1,000, 1,000,000 particles, and these particles are traveling everywhere, it's just a matter of time before it does damage.
Yeah. I think
can I ask Dr. Niles? Can I ask Dr. Niles a question?
Good.
Yeah.
I had the impression, just from, I guess, I don't know, the wisdom of time and having to minister to so many sick people over time. I was looking at the mutations of the virus actually happening in the people that caught it.
Wow.
Yes.
Which you catch it, it mutates.
Yes.
Somebody else gets it from you, and they may get okay.
Yes.
And they get a worse case based on what was manufactured in my body, and then it goes and that someone else catches something that their system is not ready for.
Yes. So just like in our body, we make new skin cells every day. We make new heart cells, everything. You know, we can regenerate our liver. That takes DNA. You have already pre-programmed into your body a mechanism to make more cells. So if your skin, you have a cut on your skin, your body's going to produce new skin in about 4 to 6 weeks, and it'll just leave a scar in that area. You know, this virus will get in one person and it'll try and replicate itself. During that replication process, what happens is sometimes it doesn't make the exact copy or the exact, it's sort of like when you have an assembly line of products and you make 99 very well and you have one bad product left, you know, and it's kind of like that. So it can mutate while it's in your body, and then you get close to someone who's not wearing a mask. Let's just talk about how this is transmitted. And there's no social distancing involved, and people are in crowded areas indoors, and they're exchanging because this is a particle. You know, you're breathing it out. If someone's in close proximity to you and there's no mask wearing, they're going to inhale it. And the first place of entry is usually through the nostrils or the mouth. If you get it on the hands, your hands, and you rub your eyes, it can enter your eyes. You know, that way. That's why they say try not to touch your face, you know, rub your eyes. I mean, so it needs an entry point into your body. If there's no entry point, you know, if you have a mask on, you know, and you're doing all the right things, there's less chance that you're going to, you know, contract this virus. And then when it gets into the second person, it's trying to make more copies of itself. You're going to have deletions and errors in the process of making more of itself. And that's how it mutates. And then it goes to the next person.
Wow.
I have a question. So you mentioned earlier how, like, if you have it, the antibodies don't last. Like your immunity doesn't last. Because I feel like I had the worst sickness that I've ever had in my life back in February, and so I'm like, was that COVID? Because my doctor said it wasn't the flu, but treated it like it was the flu. So I'm like, was that COVID? So I'm moving along like, oh, I'm immune. But you're saying that it won't last.
It's possible.
You can catch it again. Yeah.
It's possible. I was sick in February. I was sick for a while. Eventually went to the emergency room. They tested me. They said it was negative, but the testing's not perfect. They're false negatives. There were a lot of my neighbors. We were all sick around the same time, and we're all thinking, because you have to remember the testing didn't come out till later,
right?
You know, and a lot of us may have had it, and we don't know because there was no testing being done,
right?
You know, and then we know that there's probably some underreporting. You know, the numbers that you hear on the news are probably, you know, lower than, you know, what's actually out there. You know,
there are a lot of people that had that same thing back in December, January, February, the sickest they ever were.
Yep.
And probably had it and had no idea.
Yes.
One of the things I want to, since we're talking about that too, is Deacon Lowe and Pastor Christmas. Somebody brought up in the comments, and is the nightmares that come. Did you guys experience nightmares? A lot of people that had COVID, not a lot, but there are people that had COVID that were talking about the nightmares that you have, the almost hallucinations that you feel that go on in your thoughts and your dreams.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I didn't have no crazy dreams, nothing like that. No.
Okay.
My worst experience is when I couldn't breathe that night. That was my worst right there.
Okay.
I think mine probably were centered around my unconscious and yet conscious fears that I have about ministry and about my ability to function and to carry about. I'm losing. I'm not there. I'm not available. And so all those kinds of things came at me. You know, losing the church. I'm losing this. I'm losing that. You know, what's my wife going to do? Those kinds of things came at me. Of which I had no response to either.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, that's not dissimilar from Mike, because Mike said he put down every password and
Yeah, man.
account number that he had. He thought he was
Mhm.
going out of here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
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 So I think you guys are describing the same emotion, just a different way that you're describing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree, Bishop.
Yeah. Because I know one other person that had it. They said they're afraid to go outside now.
Mm.
They're afraid to do things. And some people even have survivor's guilt from it too. If you guys wouldn't mind sharing, do you have any of those experiences of being nervous to go out? Why did I survive and somebody else didn't? Those are real feelings that people have. They have support groups for people that survive COVID to help them with these emotional and psychological things that pop up.
Yeah, well, I definitely was afraid to go out. When I got sick, it was in March.
Excuse me.
And I didn't come out until May.
Mhm.
So when I did step outside, it felt like something was in the air.
Mm.
It was almost like I can see it. So I had to go do some banking, and I told my wife, I said, something's out here. I don't know what it is, but I got to go back home.
Mm.
So we went back. She took me back. She laughed.
Jeez.
I said, we got to go back home. I said, you got to take me back home. And we only went down the street to the bank, and I couldn't get out the car. I said, you go do it. And she went and did it. And I said, let's get out of here. We got to get back home. When I got back home, I felt a lot more secure. But when I was out there, I just felt like things were coming.
Like vulnerable.
Yep. I really felt like,
They're,
wow.
They're vulnerable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That they were coming at me.
So now this is not strange, but everyone that I know, with very few exceptions, that had COVID, told me they knew the moment they caught it. Somebody sneezed on them. Somebody walked past them. They knew them. They knew something touched them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everybody's nodding their head.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I can go back to where I was when that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was on my job.
Okay.
I mean, right there. That's where it was at.
Okay.
I knew the person.
Yeah.
I knew the person. And I knew exactly where it came from. I traced it back because I had to know how did I get this thing? Who am I around? I just began to just backtrace my steps, and I knew exactly where it came from and the person who it came from. And even on my job, they kept having breakouts with it anyway. So they would shut down, open back up. Somebody would come in, have it again, and just kept going like that.
And Christmas, you could tell the difference?
Yeah, I picked mine up when I went to the store on the corner from my church. And I remember I was coming out and it was like the gentleman passed me on the left and I could feel it was like something entered.
Mm.
I didn't know what.
Wow.
But it was like a week later, I'm having real difficulties. Strength's gone. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've talked to one pastor told me he knew when it happened to him, he was praying for someone in the hospital and he felt like something kind of pushed him. And another pastor told me that at his job, a child sneezed on him. And, normally you're just like, oh, that's nasty. He said, but he felt like something actually, his words were, entered him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he knew something had changed at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I say there's definitely some kind of spiritual element to this disease.
Wow.
Because people that I know that are balanced, they're not spooky, they said, I know exactly when it happened.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true, Bishop. Because I'm not spooky, but I knew where it came from.
Yeah.
See, that's why I think that I had it, because I remember specifically my coworker and I got sick at the same exact time. We were out of work for like 2 weeks, and we were sharing a bag of chips. So I'm thinking it was on that, like somebody touched, and nobody else at my job got sick except for us. So it's like, that's when I'm like, was that it?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And people are wondering now, when we finally declared it to be official, the people that got sick in December, January, and February, who were undiagnosed, technically, they didn't say they had COVID-19, but everyone I know that got sick during that time said they were deathly ill. They'd
Yeah.
never been that sick before in their life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 Never.
Wow. Wow. So Bishop, to help the people out, just in case,
Yeah.
because nowadays one cough, people nervous. You sneeze once, you're
Oh, yeah.
scared. Your leg hurt. You're like, man,
Everything's COVID-19 now.
right. Your chest hurt. You're like, oh my God,
Oh Lord.
Right.
And don't have allergies. You're in trouble.
Absolutely.
My chest hurt right now. So I know. I'm like, but that's from another condition. But Bishop, so what do you tell people so they won't they'll be cautious and concerned, but not overwhelmed by it? Like, how do you talk to somebody through that?
Well, we're doing that class right now on the pandemic.
Yes.
I think we're going into our third week.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about the practical aspects of it, the spiritual aspects of it, the prophetic aspects of it. And I think we have to believers, we have to explain all this, because what happens is this thing is real. Mm-hmm. It's very serious.
Absolutely.
People are passing away.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have to do is practice faith and common sense.
Right.
So wearing a mask is not a lack of faith.
Yeah.
Social distancing is not a lack of faith. It's wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, those people who have caught it and are saved and have recovered have no problems with masks and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Because they understand just how serious this is. Some people want to think, and here's the other thing, there was a question about asymptomatic people.
Mm-hmm.
And the question was, how long do asymptomatic people stay contagious?
Mm-hmm.
Is there an answer for that, Dr. Niles?
Yeah, you can stay contagious for several weeks.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, because when you look at from the time that you contract the virus to when you actually manifest symptoms can be a range from 2 to 14 days. So that we know. And that's where the 14-day quarantine came from. If you were exposed to someone and you're not having symptoms, you get tested and you quarantine for 2 weeks. Yeah. But yes, you can still be contagious.
I had a heated discussion with a gentleman, and he was insisting that because he felt better, that he did not need to exercise any caution in his home. And I had to really talk to him, because people are like saying, well, I feel fine. That doesn't mean you are fine.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
And and he was asked to quarantine himself and actually process that as his family rejecting him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he wanted to be able to come out and walk among the house, among everybody else in the home. And I said, no, you're not going to do this.
Can't do it.
You're not going to do this. So it was like a lot of people are in denial.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially people that are asymptomatic, who think because they're asymptomatic, they don't need to have exercise any caution at all.
Yeah.
And it makes it worse. And then you got people who had it and recovered that are in denial about the fact they just might catch it again. But I don't know why that's so strange, because, I remember back 30 years ago when I used to catch the flu, I could get over it, and then the next month catch it again.
Yes. Yes.
So it's not an impossibility, and we have to be cautious. Even though we've come through this thing, we still have to exercise some wisdom and some faith.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Because that's exactly why you have to get a flu vaccine every year. The vaccine lasts about 4 to 5 months. And you can get the flu even after you get the vaccine, because it takes at least 2 weeks for that vaccine to take effect. So people think, that they have the vaccine, and the vaccine gives you a range of protection between like 30 to 80%. Some years, batches of vaccines we have are very good. And the chances of you getting the flu, if you get the vaccine, is low. And it's probably going to be the same thing with COVID. When these vaccines come out, some people still may get COVID. I mean, but chances are you won't if you get the vaccine.
Yeah.
Now, so how does the vaccine keep up with the fact that the virus morphs in the host? How do they keep up with the virus seems to be very versatile. How does the vaccine keep up with the versatility, if I can use that word, of the virus?
So if you can loosely compare it to the flu virus, which is same type of RNA type of particle, the difference being that the COVID is a little larger and more virulent, meaning when it gets in your body, it causes more damage. If you can look at the fact that you have this vaccine, it's like every year they sample the environment. That's the best way to talk about it. And they come up with a vaccine, Glaxo, Merck, all these different manufacturers. They sample, the environment. They come up with a vaccine. And some years the vaccine is not very good. Other years it's excellent. And some people get the vaccine and they still get the flu. We think we're going to have the same issue with COVID. And this virus, with it mutating the way it is, it's going to be much harder, I think, to get a vaccine that's really going to be that efficacious. I think we're probably going to be, my theory, getting COVID vaccine and a flu vaccine at least once a year. And for COVID, it may even be more than one injection. We don't know yet until the studies are completed.
Wow.
So what are the latest? So what I've seen and I'm just watching, observing, it looks as though the treatments were perfected in real time. That the hydro, what's her name, was the big rage, but then some other drugs, they found out what's working right now. What's the practical application of pharmaceuticals for the COVID right now?
I mean, it really depends on how sick you are and what your symptoms are. Over the last couple of months, the treatment regimens have changed. They use steroids if they think it's indicated. There are not a whole lot of medications and drugs. There's no cure right now. So they're just using what they think, different antivirals they're using. And it's kind of trial and error. We don't know. We're still learning about this virus. And different people are going to require different treatment regimens. I'm sure, the deacon and the pastor, that's on the panel, they probably weren't treated the same during their illness. So it depends on the symptoms and how the virus is affecting their body.
So should we be concerned about a quick vaccine?
No. Notice there's about, I don't know, more than 10 companies trying to come out. There's a race. I don't know why. The process is so long. And it's not going to matter, to be honest with you. Once the first vaccine comes out, it may be 30% effective because they spend the time. When you look at some vaccines that have come to market, they've been studying for years. So now, everyone wants this vaccine out this year, but is it going to be effective? I would rather wait till next July, for a vaccine that's studied longer,
Right.
Instead of 3 months or 6 months. It's been studied for a year. We know that the vaccines that come out probably 2 years from now will probably be better because we'll have more data. We'll have more people that have entered the trial. We'll be able to see how long their antibodies last, because they're going to have to do testing, and so we're still in that unknown phase,
Yeah. And I've heard there, even with the vaccine and the different symptoms, how it affects kids differently. We just in Georgia, last week, over 100,000 kids got the virus.
Yes.
And a couple of the colleges opened up and a week later closed down
Yeah.
because they had an outbreak on campus.
Was not surprised about that.
Yeah. And then most recently, a college football player can't play the season. He caught the virus and it did damage to his heart. So he can't play the season.
Yes.
They're worried about the money that football's going to bring in. They're not worried about the players.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense to me that we're watching these communal type of endeavors get permission to meet, and the same result is happening. I don't know what they thought was going to happen when they sent these kids back to school back to college. It's like nobody's listening.
No.
You know, and here's the thing. I say it humorously, but it's true. People think that if they have a certain number of people in a room, they won't catch it. So they don't need masks. They don't need social distancing because it was only 25 of us, so we're not in any danger. That's not what they're saying. The virus has an incomplete education. It can multiply, but it can't add. That's the problem.
Yeah.
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 You know,
Absolutely.
my goodness.
And you're really trusting these kids on a college campus to socially distance.
To not communicate
y'all.
with each other.
Come
Like,
on.
that
Come
is
on.
ridiculous.
They should have never sent them back. But at the same time,
Mhm.
you know, I went to college and we were expected not only to be adults, but to conduct ourselves like adults.
Mhm.
I don't understand this new freshman, sophomore, junior, senior that literally has no concern for
Mhm.
anything but what they want to do at the time.
Party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's crazy. You know, you can't go home. You're going home to see your parents and you're taking something home with you.
Mhm.
it's a very
Yeah.
much like live like you're dying mentality with the
Live like you're dying. Okay.
yeah, like it's like,
And
well,
and some of them are.
no, yes, but like
They
that's
are.
like like a few years ago, YOLO was a thing. Like
Yeah.
that's really the energy that people coming with. It's
Yeah.
like, well,
Yeah.
I might as well make the most of it now, and
That's insanity.
yeah, it is. It's crazy, but it is what it is. Yeah.
I had someone say one of those type of statements to me yesterday who was well into their 40s.
Oh, you too grown to do that.
Yeah. To me, it's like playing Russian roulette. Like you take a gun and you load it and you just spin it. Like you don't know how this virus is going to attack your body until you get it. One of my family members got it and had no symptoms. He found out when he went to the doctor and got his temperature taken. It was a routine visit. He wasn't ill. So you don't know.
Deacon Hughes on here, and he's saying that his mom tested positive twice in 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
But she had no major symptoms.
Tested positive twice. So the thing about testing positive, it's probably the same illness, the same virus, because we know that the viral particles do stay in your body, up to or past 3 weeks. It depends on your immune system, how your antibodies are handling the virus and clearing it. So if they were tested twice and they're positive in the same 3-week time frame, it's probably the same illness. It's not that she got reinfected. Now, if she tested positive now and next year she's positive, it's probably not, and we don't know because we don't know how long the antibodies hang around in your body.
Okay. We got about 6 minutes left. We'll throw a few questions up here real quick. So somebody asked, what are the best ways to strengthen one's immunity against the virus? What can we do? I know certain foods we got to leave alone. I'm guilty of that. Help my immunity. But what are some things that we could do? Vitamin C, zinc,
Vitamin D.
Yeah. So, keeping yourself as healthy as possible. Really, minimizing your risk factors. If you have weight to lose some weight. The healthier you are, the better you're going to be able to defend this virus. That's the best way to explain it. The healthier your diet, eating vegetables. We know, for instance, broccoli. Broccoli and mushrooms are two vegetables that have been studied that have been proven to reduce your risk of cancer. So eating healthy vegetables, eating fruits, lowering or eating less red meat, not eating fried foods if you can, just eating the best, healthiest diet, drinking lots of water, your body's 60% water. Those are all minimizing alcohol, minimizing or not, doing them, not smoking, not drinking. All those things will improve your immunity, your immune system.
Why does vitamin D seem to be something that most people, even physicians that are not naturalists, why does vitamin D seem to be the thing? What is it? What does it do to the body that is that protective from the virus?
Well, So that's still controversial. We don't know, that vitamin D in itself, if you take it, will protect you against the virus.
Oh,
Who's that?
who's that?
Who's that? Who's that?
That's I muted. I found it. Go ahead. I found it. Woo!
So what we do know about vitamin D, I'm just going to talk about the facts. We know that 2/3 of the people in this country are vitamin D deficient, because we don't live near the equator. We don't get natural sun. So if you're not getting enough vitamin D in your diet, you have to take supplements. So we know, that vitamin D helps in protecting heart disease and things like that. But, we still don't know enough about this virus and vitamin D to say that taking, vitamin D or having enough vitamin D in your body is going to prevent. We have to do studies. We just don't know that type of information. But keeping yourself healthy, eating a healthy diet, exercising, drinking water, getting adequate sleep, not drinking alcohol. We know alcohol depresses your immune system, and you need a very strong immune system and a healthy immune system to fight off this virus. So those are the things that you can do health-wise, to keep yourself and minimize your risk of getting the vaccine. And of course, wear a mask.
Yeah. Go ahead, Des.
I would say from like a holistic standpoint, I'm not a doctor, but like as far as supplements and things, definitely like quercetin, monolaurin, berberine, those things will be beneficial. Having like nettle tea, marshmallow root tea, different things that are going to keep your chest open. Those things would be beneficial so that, you can continue to have the optimum health, that within your body, and just minimizing, inflammatory things, things that will highlight or exacerbate different symptoms in the body.
It's funny how God creates a lot of healing mechanisms naturally.
Yeah, right in the dirt.
I was reading about, you can look at Dr. Sebi's stuff, but I think one thing that he was on was the whole mucus thing in your body.
The CMOS, yeah.
And the amount of mucus in your body is not good for you. I was reading about this African family that they caught COVID, and they got a bunch of roots and them real spicy roots and stuff. And they were, I'm not a doctor, so please don't take advice. So I can't remember what they were using. They would make this like stew in this soup, and they would eat it every day, and they would get this thing and put it on the pot, heat it up, and they would sniff it in just to clear their stuff out. All natural. I'm not saying that's the only solution, but obviously if God put stuff in the earth for us, he's given us a lot of what we need to be able to succeed in this life in a healthy way.
Ginger, garlic, cayenne, those things.
Now,
I still believe that there's a plant on the side of a hill somewhere that God has created.
Oh yeah.
For every ailment that we have, and we just haven't found it yet.
Absolutely.
Mushroom.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Some of it we do know. We know turmeric has been studied. Turmeric's what's in mustard, it's in curry. Yeah. And we know that turmeric helps decrease inflammation. So those are some things that you can add to your diet. I take it daily. Because I've noticed the benefits, when I take it and when I don't. There are a lot of herbs. Garlic is a very natural herb, or vegetable, whatever you want to call it, that we know can help fight viral illnesses, but we don't know because we haven't studied it, against like something like COVID. But there are things that you can do to help boost your immune system. Vitamin C, we know, does boost your immune system. That's why when you get the cold or the flu, we tell you to try and drink, vitamin C, eat, things that are high in vitamin C, because that will help your immune system.
Yeah.
We'll bring this last part up before we close. Sid brought up something, and it's something I think a lot of people of color we're not the best at, which is going to the doctor. And for us, it's like you ride it out, until it goes away. But there are some people that are afraid to go to the doctor because they don't want to know the truth about what's going on. They're avoiding it, scared of it. they don't trust the medical community. But our thing is, I'd rather be safe than sorry. Call your doctor just in case, you know. And as people of faith, yes, pray, but call your doctor too.
Absolutely.
Praise the Lord. God ain't crazy.
And for those, Pastor Nick, that
Sure.
want to get kind of too deep.
Okay.
Jesus carried a physician with him and the disciples.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He had a doctor in his crew.
That's
Mm-hmm.
right.
So the miracle worker had a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So let's be serious about this. If he thought there was a necessity to have a field doctor to go travel with them around the country, then there must be a place for medicine in our lives, even if we're people of faith.
Absolutely. I think we got through most of them. A lot of the questions that people are asking, we answered them in the panel already. If you can get a chance to go back and watch them, go back and watch it. A lot of the questions are we already answered on there. Any closing words, Bishop, or you want to share, or anybody else?
No, we just want people to take this thing seriously, to take the precautions. Don't just think about yourself. There are other people. We've had people on tonight that have actually had this thing, that it's taken them to a place of where they were extremely sick, probably sicker than they'd ever been.
Yeah.
And they were open enough to tell us exactly what they were thinking and what they were feeling. That just how it can take you to the edge of thinking you're going to leave here.
Yeah.
And I think it's that serious. We should not have to wait till someone we care about is in the hospital fighting for their lives for us to exercise the caution we need to exercise.
Absolutely. That's good. And last thing before we go, we good. So please join us tomorrow for On Point at 9:00. 9:00 tomorrow on Point. We're going to talk some more about this and some other things. On the 14th of September, we're having another COVID test here at the church, and we'll announce that. Again, the 14th of September, another COVID testing. You want to make sure that you join us. And we had somebody that put in the comment section, I can't find it, somebody in their family has the virus. So we can close out in prayer. Pastor Christmas or Bishop, anybody you want to?
I give it to James.
Okay, Pastor Christmas, can you close us out in prayer and pray for those people who are going through this? And again, for that person, I can't remember the person's name, has a family member that has the virus.
Our Father and our God, we are so grateful that we can come to you knowing that you already know what our circumstances are. We thank you for your favor and for your mercies that you give to us on a daily basis. And we certainly lift up those, Lord, who have been impacted and infected by this dastardly disease. We ask, Father, that you would just show them your healing grace and mercy as they go through the process of recovery. We thank you for victory in all things, because we know that you are still God and that you knew that this would be, but you are with us and you take care of us as we give attention and obedience to you. Thank you for this time that you have given each of us together. Now bless us as we move about as your witness. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Thank you all. God bless you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Bless you. See you soon.